How's it going, everyone? It's Kay Lumbity here, and today we're going to be talking about a horror game that I played through on the Xbox Series X. Now, this game is also on a lot of other platforms. You can play it on PC, and I believe you can play it on the Nintendo Switch as well. And this game is called Corpse Party. Now, this is a very graphic, disturbing game. However, it is also a really good game, and it has a really interesting story, really cool setting, has a lot of good things going for it. However, that being said, I will not be able to recommend this game to everyone. If you suffer from depression, or you deal with a lot of, depression or anything like that, or you don't like hearing about sensitive subjects or sensitive topic matters or disturbing subjects, I highly recommend that you avoid this game, because this game is very disturbing, this game is very gruesome, it's very gory, and there's a lot of dark themes in this game. I remember when Doki Doki Literature Club came out, and everyone was talking about how graphic and how disturbing that game was, and they were telling people beforehand, if you have depression, do not play this game. However, I will say Doki Doki Literature Club is a walk in the park compared to Corpse Party. Corpse Party is about as disturbing as it gets. It may be the most disturbing video game I've ever played. And I have actually read some of the manga, and I have watched the anime before I even played this video game. And I will say, while the manga and the anime are definitely more gory and more disgusting, the game is still pretty gory on its own. It's pretty graphic still, and some of the descriptions it uses in the death scenes and stuff like that, and some of the death scenes it shows, are pretty disgusting and pretty graphic. I have to say that right off the bat. This game is not for the faint of heart, so if you cannot handle gore or, disturbing topics, this ain't the game for you. But the game Corpse Party is basically about a bunch of kids that use this little charm. They all do this little occult charm game. They think that it's just, this cute little ritual. It doesn't actually mean anything. However, it does mean something. Whenever they do the ritual, it ends up sending them to an alternate dimension. They do the ritual in the skull, and then it sends them to a very messed up version of that skull that was closed down years and years ago. It actually kind of sends them into this weird pocket dimension type thing, and it's a version of the skull that has existed, but it was supposed to be the version of the skull that was closed down. Basically, they built a high skull on top of an elementary skull where a bunch of murders happened, and now they're in that elementary skull. And there's a whole lot of ghosts, a whole lot of ghouls, and a whole lot of creepiness going around. While you play this game, it will have you swapping to different characters so you can see each character's story. There's quite a few different characters that you get to play as, and it shows you each one of their paths, where they are in this little pocket dimension, and none of them can communicate with other groups. You'll get stuck in groups of two people, and these two people won't be able to communicate with the rest of the group because they are in a separate pocket dimension. It's really weird and twisted, and it's really cool because it makes you feel isolated in your area. Whatever area you're in, it makes you feel completely cut off from everybody else, and it gives you this sense of isolation. They do a really good job with that. And the actual music and the sounds and everything that you hear in the background, it all adds to this creepy atmosphere that the game is trying to put on. And it just makes for just such a fantastic setting. It makes for an amazing horror game. And I just can't say enough good things about the early parts of this game. Now, it does start to wane a little bit as you go on, and the puzzles get to be a little bit more obnoxious, and you have to start doing things in a little bit more of careful order if you want to get the good ending. However, the first few chapters, when you can kind of throw caution to the wind and just do things however you want and figure things out on yourself, where there's not really a whole lot of super severe consequences because you have those easy reloads, those early chapters are phenomenal, and I loved playing through them. Mainly chapters 1 through 4 are all super easy to play through, super fun, and I don't know how badly you can screw up the story in those early chapters, but I know once you get to chapter 5, which is the final chapter, you can screw up the story quite a bit, so you really have to be careful in chapter 5 for sure. In chapter 5, I actually used a walkthrough guide. I read some guides on the internet to be able to get the true ending, because I really did not want the bad ending. After I had gotten a few of the side extra endings in the other chapters, because if you don't do something right in the extra chapters, you'll get a death scene, and it will count as an extra ending or whatever. After getting some of those extra endings, I definitely didn't want any of the really bad endings at the end of the game, so I did use a guide into the last chapter, and I'm glad I did, so I could get the true ending. And let me tell you, I don't know how easy it would have been to get the actual to get the true ending without a guide. I don't know how he would have done it, because it is a very difficult It's just there's so much you have to do in order, and there's so many things you have to be careful about. It's really hard to tell like how many people probably got that on their first try. I highly doubt a lot of people got the true ending on their first try. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, because that seems like an amazing feat, honestly, because I don't think I could have got it on my first try without a guide. But yeah, I think the chapters 1 through 4 you can play through completely fine, and you could probably use just a lot of common sense in terms of figuring out what to do, and you probably don't have to worry about a guide. But when it comes to the very last chapter, yeah, you're probably going to want a guide if you want the true ending. You can still play it blind and just risk getting whatever ending you want, but it's probably going to be a depressing ending, I'll just tell you that. A lot of this game is just solving puzzles and finding different objects to solve different puzzles, and some of the puzzles actually are super important. Some of the pieces that you find around the map are super important to making sure that your character survives. There's one part where you actually need to find a couple of different cell phones, because if you don't find the cell phones, well, it can actually mess up the game pretty badly. So you definitely want to find those cell phones so you don't get a bad ending. There's a lot of different interesting extra endings, like I've said before. One of them actually does require you to get a cell phone and go into a separate room, and when you go into the room, like, someone will charge at you and try to stab you, but the cell phone will actually save your life, and it gives you an extra ending. It's not a good ending still, but it does give you an extra ending to unlock. So there's a lot of hidden things like that, and I have to kind of be careful about how I talk about this game, because there is a lot to spoil in this game, but there's so many different endings. It's just like, I feel like it's okay to talk about some of the possibilities every now and then. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the ending is, but there's a lot of different endings in this. Now, I did want to point out that this game is technically a remaster. This is basically a smoother looking version, a better looking version of the older Corpse Party game. This is technically called Corpse Party 2021. It's the newer release, and basically, from what I can tell, the major difference is that they've basically redrawn all the characters, made the characters just look better, and they've made the environments look more detailed as well. So that's the biggest difference. However, I do kind of want to go back and play the old one now, and maybe I'll do that, and maybe I'll do a review on it if you guys are interested, because I wouldn't mind checking out what the older graphics look like, honestly. When you finish the main game, you actually may want to go back and play some of these extra chapters that this game has too. There's a ton of extra chapters that give you more character stories and gives you just more lore and everything like that, and it just gives you more gameplay. So you may want to go check those out as well, because those are pretty cool. I played through a few of them, and I really liked what I've played of them so far, and I'm going to have to play some more of those, because I want to try to get as much lore about this world as possible, because this is a really interesting horror game. It's a really interesting world that they've built, this entire school and this area and this pocket dimension. It's super interesting, it's disturbing, and it's really cool, and I want to learn more about it, and they did a really good job of making me want to learn. I want to learn more about this. I want to see what type of just craziness is going on, and what type of, what is causing this curse, what is causing this pocket dimension to exist, and what is causing it to keep existing. What is causing this? And it makes me interested in this universe, and I really, really like that. While I like a lot of the puzzles in this game, and a lot of the puzzles are on the easy side, there are some puzzles that are absolutely not great. There's actually one that I can think of off the top of my head that I really didn't like, and it requires you carrying around this crying baby doll. And it's supposed to cry, the way they make it sound, it makes it sound like it's supposed to cry whenever you're in the room with the item that you're after. But it turns out that's not always the case. Sometimes it will cry in a room that's completely separate from where the item you need is, and it will be telling you, it will tell you very subtly that you need to go into a different area. But because it starts crying in a certain room, I'm thinking, oh, I need to keep searching in this room and try to find it in there, and I'll realize, oh, I wasted my time. It's not in this room at all. I need to go over to the staircase where this thing wasn't even reacting. I need to go over there and try to solve the puzzle that way. So I wasn't a big fan of that puzzle, and there's a few of them like that in this game where I'm just like, okay, how did you actually expect me to figure this out quickly? I feel like this is almost a time waster. So I'm not a big fan of those things, but for the most part, the majority of the puzzles in this game are really good. There's just a few every now and then that unfortunately stick out as not so great, not so well designed. there is a lot of exploration in this game to try and solve a lot of these puzzles as well. So keep in mind that you probably will be wandering around the school for quite some time. However, it never really seemed to bother me, and maybe that's just because the setting and everything absorbed me so much into this world, and I was so interested and just kind of like, I was just so immersed into this world that it didn't really bother me to be kind of wandering around looking for the puzzle pieces I needed. It didn't really bother me to be doing that because the atmosphere was so intriguing and so, just it was so immersive that it made me want to keep playing no matter what. It made me not want to go look at guides for as much as I could. It made me want to try to solve as much as I could on my own without using any guides, because I was really just interested in this game and exploring and trying to solve things by myself because I wanted to be fully immersed in this game. So that is one of the things that I didn't like when I did have to use some of the guides. It did take that immersion away a little bit, but for the most part, I didn't mind just wandering around the school and trying to figure out these things on my own because this world is so interesting. It is this nice pixelated art style as well. I love the art style of it, and it looks really good. There's something about this pixelated horror, genre. There's a lot of these like pixelated horror games these days, and they always look really, really good. It's just something about the atmosphere really works in these kind of like pixelized retro style video games. It just makes it feel a little bit creepier. I would actually prefer playing one of these games compared to a 3D more realistic one, just because I feel like these games just do the setting creepier. They do it in a better stylized way, and I also think that they just age better because they are just kind of retro style. It's an art style. Pixelation is an art style. It's not just trying to look realistic. It's trying to have its own feel, its own unique identity, and this game does that very well. This game looks phenomenal, and there's a lot of creepy areas to explore, and they did a good job making sure all the surrounding areas around you are very creepy, and there's some even like messed up scenes, and they play out in the 8-bit style or in this pixelated style, and they look creepy and disgusting. I will say, like, even though it's pixelated, you see it and you're just like, that is disgusting, that is gross, wow, why did they do that? Like I said, this game is edgy, and that is one problem I will say that this game has, is the fact that it is edgy. It's not as edgy as the anime, it's not as edgy as the manga, but it is still really, really, really edgy. Like, it tries hard to be dark, and I think the saving thing about this game, and it's the fact that it's edgy, is that it knows what it's doing, and it's basically trying to just top itself over and over and over again. And they at least have a good story to go along with all the edginess to kind of make that kind of, edgy nature make sense in this setting. Because of this setting, it works. If it was any other setting and they told the story any other way, I don't think it would work as well. But because it ties in so well with the story, the edginess doesn't really bother me in this, because it almost has to be this way for the story to work, to be this graphic, to be this shocking, to be this disturbing. You kind of need that edginess in it. So it does work out, but it is one of those things that I know will turn people off from the game, because it is, like I said, it tries to gross you out in some areas. It tries to be gross. It tries to be disturbing. It will do its best to make you feel sick, to make you feel gross. And especially in those death scenes. My goodness, those death scenes. But overall, if you can stomach this game, and if you can play it and you can enjoy it, and you can just, if you can handle those dark, sensitive topics, I think you are going to enjoy this game. This is a really fun game. This is a really just gorgeous horror game in terms of its graphics. What happens in the game is disturbing, not gorgeous, but the actual graphics of this game look great. The pixelated style looks amazing. The characters and everything, you really get to learn a lot about a lot of the different characters. Not all of them. Some of them have more story than others, but a lot of the characters are pretty likable, and you do want to save them. These aren't like your generic horror characters that you actually are rooting for to die, that you're rooting where you're rooting for the villain or whatever. This game, you are not rooting for the villain. In this game, they do a good job of getting you to root for the survivors, and that is something that I think is really important, because a lot of horror games and a lot of horror movies don't care who you root for. A lot of the times they make the heroes and the survivors really obnoxious, so you want them to die. This game doesn't do that. This game makes you root for them. This game makes you want to get them to survive. It makes you want to, get as many of the characters to survive as possible, and that's good writing. If they make you care about the characters in the time that you spend in this game, that's good writing. And I think that Corpse Party does a fantastic job of character writing, story writing, and also just great kind of psychological horror and atmospheric horror. There's not any really jump scares or anything like that, but there are some creepy moments that will definitely make your skin crawl in certain areas, and I think that's more important than jump scares, and a creepy atmosphere is more important than jump scares in my opinion. Overall, I think that you should check this game out if you can handle the dark topics and you can handle the edginess and the very grotesque gore and all the other stuff. If you can handle all that stuff, this is a game worth playing and you should definitely check it out. I'm looking forward to playing all of its sequels. It has a lot of sequels. In fact, it has an actual physical edition. I think it's a new Corpse Party game, Corpse Party 2, and it has like a little, one of the extra, I don't know if it's a Corpse Party 2 like spin-off game or what it is exactly, but all I know is that it's a Corpse Party 2 game coming out physically for the Nintendo Switch later on this year. I'm looking forward to playing that as well. But yeah, this was an awesome game, and I'm looking forward to playing the rest of the series. And from what I understand, the series just gets more gross and more grotesque as it goes on. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.